there's a lot going on and around this show. Canceled? Already? DC Universe's Swamp Thing, Episode 2, Season 1, which may be the only season, review, and also, well, we gotta talk about the cancellation talk. Hey y'all, it's your Twisted Girl Next Door here, and oh my gosh, I guess we have to talk about the elephant, the big green elephant in the room when it comes to this particular show of DC Universe's Swamp Thing, Season 1. I'm talking about Episode 2 as well in this video, but we have to talk about the fact that news has broken this week that they will not be continuing with this show past Season 1. Yes, you heard that right if this is your first time hearing about it, that they have canceled Swamp Thing. They have canceled the show after only one episode premiere, which makes me kind of sad because, I was thinking about, doing the reviews, and I was going to have my little green leaves from my Poison Ivy costume that I was going to wear for it. So I guess I'm going to wear this in memoriam of the show now being canceled. So this review breakdown video is going to be a little different. So first and foremost, we have to talk about the cancellation talk. We have to talk about what that means, what it means for the other shows on DC Universe, what happened, oh my gosh. And then I do want to talk about Episode 2 because I did watch it. And I want to do my normal or regular breakdown that I tend to do, which is my overall thoughts of the episode, the major happenings in the episode, also ship talk, and then finally comic book comparison, because this is based off of the comic book series of Swamp Thing. Oh my gosh. Okay, so the details of this cancellation, which I read about yesterday, it broke on Twitter and other social media platforms and news outlets, of course, first and foremost. And so when the news broke of the cancellation saying that it was not going to be continuing after season 1, I think a lot of people assumed that it had something to do with streaming or ratings or something like that, which doesn't make sense, right? Because usually streaming services don't do the whole ratings thing as the same way that network TV does when it comes to Nielsen ratings and all this other stuff. So then there was a question of, the execs were just already against the show from the beginning. So it was like creative differences. But it seems a little weird that with creative differences alone, that you wouldn't at least just show the whole season and then see who was right in terms of audience reaction and then go from there, right? Or maybe just switch out who's the creative, team or whatever. So then we got more details, which started to make a lot more sense to me on the business side, which was the fact that where Swamp Thing was being filmed, which was North Carolina, that the state was actually supposed to give the production an $80 million or $40 million tax break, right? Which would make up for half of the production, which was $80 million to produce this series. And then there was a flub in the paperwork, or something just didn't add up. Or more so, the money of $40 million didn't add up to $40 million. And what was supposed to be $40 million turned out to only be $12 million. Or was it $14 million? Either way, it wasn't $40 million. It wasn't half of the production cost, which I think they were banking on getting. And so I think the writing was on the wall from there that they weren't going to be able to, if they did do a season 2, do it on the caliber of an $80 million budget, for one. So it would be probably a major budget decrease. And if we're already used to a certain look of $80 million, it was going to be a definite shift. But I think you can more so couple this with the fact that, yes, I think there were some rumors that the execs weren't, or I don't even want to say execs, right? Powers that be, whoever, weren't necessarily hot about whatever direction or whatever the show or whatnot was going in. Because we heard some months ago, right, that they basically had, I think, 13 or 15 episodes they were supposed to do of this show, and they ended up cutting it down at the last minute to 10 episodes. Now, partly, I'm guessing now in retrospect, that had to do with the fact they probably ran out of money. So that's why it was 10 episodes. But around that time when it happened, some of the actors got online, even though they deleted the post afterwards, talking about, oh my gosh, they don't believe in this show, save Swamp Thing. So it made people kind of think, what we thought was like a budget thing or just a question of episode count was maybe this show was in, danger of being canceled. But then that same day or later on that day or the next day, they basically released a Swamp Thing teaser trailer, right? So I think that made most of us think, okay, maybe that was just a miscommunication. They seem to still be promoting this show. So yeah, maybe it's just we're not all on the up and up of what exactly is happening. So then the show premieres, right? And yeah, it seemed to get a lot of buzz. A lot of people tended to see the potential in it or love it, right? There wasn't anything I read online, and not even in my own review and breakdown that you saw, hopefully you saw, that was glaring and saying, oh, this show is crap or anything, right? I was, like I said, I decided to stick with it in terms of doing a weekly review and breakdown of the show. And now for it, fast forward to not even a whole week later, and it's canceled. And we have been told that it's not getting a season 2. Now, the main thing seems to be the $40 million that just never was. That I think that was a very big, a very big aspect of it. But I also think another aspect of it is the idea that, it was $80 million to produce, and, $80 million is a lot for one can argue more of a cult kind of character, right? It's not Superman, it's not Batman. And so I think this is also put into perspective for some people kind of fearing for Doom Patrol, fearing for Titans, which actually is filming season 2 at this moment. So I don't think we have to worry too much for Titans. And also just the future of DC Universe's streaming service. My thoughts on that are a few things. One, I don't think we have to worry about Titans, as I just said. I don't think we have to worry about Titans. Even if, now, to understand the business aspect of this, there was a merger of companies, right? Oh my gosh, capitalism. There was a merger of companies of Time Warner, I think, and AT&T or some other, or Warner or something. And so there has been talk of another streaming platform that they want to do, which is like Warner Media or whatnot. So the question that is murmuring is what's going to happen to DC Universe, because that was made before this merger was like totally finalized. Are they just going to scrap it, or are they going to incorporate into the other streaming? My thing with that is a lot of these companies are trying to get into what Netflix has done, and some are doing okay, some might not have the best ideas, because Netflix actually launched in 1997. For a lot of people that don't know, it didn't just come on the scene and was suddenly a streaming platform. It was not even streaming in 1997, right? And it didn't start doing streaming until like I think 2000 or something, and then becoming like doing its own original content a little bit after that. So it built up over like a decade, right? And so a lot of these streaming platforms are trying to jump into it immediately, and they're getting mixed results. I'm not saying that it's good or bad. They're getting their results, right? I mean, everything's an experiment. I think when it comes to Titans and even Doom Patrol to a certain degree, one, I don't think either of those shows costed $80 million to do, for one. Thank the Lord that they didn't, because we might be in the same situation if they had. But I also think that they're strong enough, particularly Titans, in the sense of a built-in large, like huge audience of people that already like that brand, that they will find a home for it. Even if maybe DC Universe doesn't continue, that they will find a home for Titans in one of their properties, because it's already a popular show. It did really well internationally with Netflix when it premiered there, so I don't see that being an issue. And they're already filming season 2, so they're already putting a full season out there. And if the cancellation of Swamp Thing is any perspective, they have no issue pulling the plug on something even in the midst of it. So if we haven't heard word of that, then I think we're fine. And I think with Doom Patrol, I think I heard basically that they got renewed like after the first episode. They actually got their season 2 renewal after their first episode premiere. So this was like complete opposite with Swamp Thing, which is weird, right? But I think with Titans and Doom Patrol, we see that there's a little bit more of a, I don't know, maybe it's the money that it wasn't as much or whatever. But they seem to have a little bit more confidence in those two brands than they did with Swamp Thing. So I don't think we have to worry about the shows. I'm not so sure about DC Universe in that sense, but they have been launching a lot of stuff. I think the future will tell us whether or not Swamp Thing was an outlier when it comes to just maybe a show that it cost too much or too many mishaps and they just kind of wanted to cut their losses, or whether or not this is a symptom of another issue that goes beyond just one show. I think time will have to tell that, because I don't think we can tell from this particular situation. Now, with that said, I do have to ask, why $80 million? I know some people are like, it's 2019 at this point. You need to invest that kind of money. But we've seen there was a live action show some years back, and I'm pretty sure it didn't cost that much. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe it did back in the day. But I think as a horror fan, any horror fan will know, not saying you need a shoestring budget, but any horror fan knows that you can make really compelling practical effects and you don't need to necessarily break the bank to do it. And I think they went all out for it, and I appreciate that effort because, hey, Swamp Thing, why not? Because, I mean, he looks awesome. Okay, I'll get into that in my episode 2 talk. He looks awesome, but I think maybe certain things could have been, curtailed, and I don't think, we would have been at too much of a loss for it, right? So I don't know. I think maybe that was the first mishap, especially for a cult character. And I say that as someone who's actually a fan of Swamp Thing. I know some of you, and not some of you guys, I love you guys, but some people in my comment section for my first video of episode 1 were kind of rude because I had a different opinion and I didn't give higher than a 7 for the pilot episode, that somehow I didn't know anything about Swamp Thing and I just didn't get it and stuff like that. And I just want to emphasize, it's my opinion. This is what this channel is about, me giving a hopefully educated opinion and informed opinion about stuff. Because I try not to talk out of the side of my neck as though not knowing anything, but that at the end of the day, it is very much Chauncey's viewpoint on things, and we may not always agree, but we can be civil about that. And so I wasn't necessarily blown away by the pilot episode, but I also understood I like the Swamp Thing character. I have the comics, I have them on my wall. I like the character, I like the core of it. I got something for the big green guys, as you can see, when it comes to the Hulk and Swamp Thing and Frankenstein. So I think for me, I thought, this is a cult character, and that's fine, but it's going to be a hard sell because he's a kind of a stoic character. So you might have to be in a position where you have to say, yes, we want a lot of people to know about this, and we want to seem invested in it. We want to be invested in it, but maybe 80 million was overextending a little bit. Just my thought. Because it really does seem like it was the money situation that really sunk this ship, for lack of a better terminology at this point, and that's unfortunate. Yeah, it's kind of deflating also to watch a show knowing it's not coming back, because just the way this show has been unfolding in a kind of a slower pace, you just knew they're not going to reveal everything in season 1. There's going to be a lot of questions left unanswered, which is frustrating to me. I don't know about you, but it is. But yeah, let me know in the comments section, what do you think about this? Do you think that it's about the money? Do you think there's something else going on? Do you think it was a few things? Are you okay with it being canceled? Do you think it should get another chance somewhere else maybe? I don't think that's really an option, but yeah, so let me know. Okay, so episode 2 of Swamp Thing season 1, should I even say season 1 anymore? Like, just episode 2 of Swamp Thing. So, overall, I thought this episode, it still was a little slow for me. I think some stuff got situated. I think there's a bigger mystery that's still being unfolded. We got to know some other characters a little bit better, and I think it gave us a different kind of perspective than the pilot gave, and that's good. Still a little slow. I don't know. I didn't hate it. I thought it was a solid episode. Things happened for sure. I think it's going to be a minute before we hear actual Swamp Thing talk or anything, though. So, yeah, I don't know where we're going to go with that. Like, yeah, I'm just kind of, might take a minute, which once again, I'm probably going to keep referring to the cancellation throughout this breakdown because it's going to take a little bit longer to unravel all this, knowing that it's not coming back for a second season. Yeah. Two major happenings stood out to me in this episode, which was the fact that Susie, our little girl Susie, kind of our own 11, a la Stranger Things, connected with Swamp Thing, aka Alec, maybe. She connected with him. We learned some things about him, and now Abby knows about Swamp Thing. So that was a major happening. The other major happening was that Maria Sunderland went to Madame Xanadu, and Xanadu, she felt something in the force that things aren't so great. And we saw some kind of mystical stuff going on with ghosts and demons and things of that nature. So that's a turning point and for this show, for sure. So to me, those were the major two things. And of course, this all took place immediately after Alec being shot. So yeah, with those two major happenings, there were also some happenings with Avery Sutherland, who I really liked in this show so far. I just love this actor and how he's able to kind of play kind of the sweeter guy for all of a second, the Southern gentleman, and then he just turns so sinister, and it's so subtle, and he's kind of the highlight of the show for me so far, just kind of watching him interact with various people and kind of seeing the different personalities, not even saying personality, different angles of his personality. And we kind of saw that with him and Abby, because we also found out that Abby was raised by the Sutherlands. It wasn't just the fact that she was the best friend to their daughter, but that she was raised by them since she was 8 years old. So they're kind of her foster parents. So that makes the situation with them even more ridiculous in the sense of intensity. And I don't mean ridiculous like bad, but I mean ridiculous like, man, that's a lot of drama right there and a lot of past situations. We also saw Abby having a nightmare about Shauna. I guess it was Shauna, because Maria also saw her later when Madame Xanadu connected with her. So yeah, that was a lot of stuff going on, a lot of mystery, right? There's still a lot of mystery. We're still unpacking everything, kind of peeling things back slowly. In the midst of that, we also saw Swamp Thing / Alec coming from the swamp, and he's very confused right now. He doesn't know what's going on. So we got this really interesting scene with him kind of pulling apart his body, which was gross, pulling apart his body and hurting himself, and Susie feeling him hurt himself. So she seems to have some connection with the green. And so we saw that, and he didn't speak much. He did kill some guys later when Susie stowed away to find him. And Abby finds Susie, because that was the whole thing that was going on there. And Susie tells Abby that Swamp Thing wants her to know his name is Alec. So that was a big kind of deal. And I'm glad we kind of got there, and it didn't take like until the 3rd or 4th episode for her to kind of get an inkling that maybe Swamp Thing was Alec. Overall, Abby is still trying to find answers, right? The plague seems to also be spreading. And we also saw that Avery knows that that accelerant that they're putting in the bottom of the swamp is very much a part of that. And so what we're seeing is him trying to figure out basically, how does this not get connected to me? Because he wanted to monetize whatever they were going to, because, evil businessman. He wanted to monetize it, but something went terribly wrong. And somehow, because of this accelerant, the green has seemingly come to life. And so that's what we're getting at this juncture. And we kind of know Avery's not a nice guy. So yeah, things are moving along, which is fine. We're getting to know Abby's quirks here and there. We got to know a little bit about her BFF. There was some LGBTQ representation up in there when she stayed over her BFF's house, and her girlfriend was there and stuff. So yeah, cool for that. She's a journalist. I'm still not sold on her character yet either, because I don't know. The thing about this show, I'm not saying I need jokes, because I can watch a serious show that's heavy. There's a lack of, I don't know, there's something missing a little bit here. And I can't put my finger on it when it comes to this show so far. maybe it's that character that not that necessarily makes jokes, but kind of brings a little bit of air of something to things when Abby is such in a place of sadness, and then Swamp Thing's just always stoic, that you're gonna kind of need a character that balances that out if neither one of the two of them can do that, right? And I don't think we've gotten that yet. So it's a little hard because it's so heavy throughout the whole entire episode. Like the whole entire episode is just heavy. And so, which is fine, but you usually need, I don't want to call it comedy relief though, because that's not necessarily what I'm talking about. Something, I can't put my finger on it. Matt and Abby. So yeah, Matt kind of revealed that he used to have a crush on Abby when they were younger, and his mama, who is the sheriff, that's convenient, and he's a cop too. She knows about his infatuation with Abby and basically warned him that uh, there's no hope for that in terms of it ending well. And she's probably right. Now, I'll talk about a little bit of this with comic book comparison, but if you do know the comics, you know that it was kind of, when Matt was introduced, you kind of knew they were going to have something if you're familiar with the comics, because of their characters and stuff. So you kind of saw that coming in a way. But once again, knowing that the core of this show, that the heart of it, the main romance is Alec or more so Swamp Thing and Abby, you kind of know it's doomed, right? It's doomed. Abby and Alec / Swamp Thing, yes. So yeah, Abby watched some of Alex, his video diaries. He was talking about her, mentioned her. That was a sweet moment. She cried a lot this episode. She cried last episode too. She cries in the past 2 episodes. And it was sweet. It was a sweet moment. It almost drives home the idea he died. He actually died. And so it kind of hits you right there that this was a real person, for fiction anyway, that died, and it's kind of sad. And then also, with that being paralleled with the fact that Swamp Thing, who is supposedly Alec, is like so confused at what is happening to him and what he is at that moment. It was very sad. It's very sad. And they had this moment when him and Swamp Thing is like looking at her and she's looking at him, and then being told that they're very much laying the groundwork, because it'll be interesting to see where they go or how they go, I should say, in her being fearful of him to the point where, there's love there between the two of them. So who knows if we'll see that this season. But it'll be interesting how they build up on that between the two of them, because right now she's very fearful of this guy. No one believes that she's seen a Swamp Thing creature. So right now she's kind of on her own and trying to figure it out. So 2 things with comic book talk I want to just, touch on briefly. Like I said, Avery Sutherland, he's a bad guy in the comics, pretty much, Swamp Thing nemesis, sort of. So that seems to be happening very much. Though he seems to be the big bad of the season, which is interesting change from Titans and Doom Patrol, and that the big bad has more to do, well, he's human, for one, so far. And yeah, so they're going that route with it, and he's very much showing his colors, but there's still they're kind of playing that line of he's doing it for money, not necessarily because he's inherently an evil person, right? So we'll see how that progresses, but that's definitely a comic book thing. And then the other aspect of it is Matt and Abby. In the comics, Matt very much plays a significant part in Abby's life, romantically. I think in some aspects they're married even. So, and he goes through some stuff in the comics as well in terms of it being possessed and all this other stuff. So things get weird for Matt. Matt doesn't have a great run. He's kind of a tortured character for the sake of, I guess, the main love story between them. So that's why I'm a little sad, because I kind of like this live action Matt. So I'm like, they're going to have to make him a little bit less likable for us to be okay with him being the loser of it out of the triangle and all of this stuff, right? So far, I'm not, necessarily convinced he should lose at this point, because he seems to be very genuinely caring for Abby. So we'll see how that goes, but it's very much a comic book staple, the Matt characters in there, and that, situation between them, their partnership and stuff. So we'll see where that goes with it. So in terms of predictions and conclusions, prediction with this show overall, I guess we have to talk about it, is I don't think we'll have any of our answers that we need for this mystery that they're building. And that frustrates me. A little sad about that because I am still intrigued on the show. I know I don't sound like I'm like super hot on it, but I actually am intrigued. I like Swamp Thing, so I want to see where it goes. So it is a little frustrating that a lot of these will have probably a lot of big revelations, but not a lot of the answers to it. So we'll still have the comic books though, guys. But yeah, that is a prediction. And my conclusion in terms of my reviews of it, I'm gonna stick with it. They got it. They paid $80 million, so I hope that they release the episodes, and we'll go from there. I guess I'm gonna have to look at it as kind of a self-contained, unfinished movie, maybe. All right, y'all. So, what do you think about what's happening with this show, with Swamp Thing? Let me know about. Are you going to stick with it? I mean, now that you know that it's not coming back, are you the type to continue watching it and see how it plays out? Are you kind of like, I don't want to torture myself or whatever? Let me know. Comment down below with your thoughts. Also, let me know about what you think about the storyline so far. Do you think it's moving at a good pace? Do you think it's a little slow? What do you think about what's going on? What do you think the big mystery and how things are unfolding? And what role does Shauna, the ghost, the daughter, Abby's BFF, play into all of this, right? Is she connected to it somehow? Will we know how she died eventually? Let me know. Comment down below with your thoughts. Let me know what you're thinking. And also, be sure to subscribe so that you're the first to know when I post my videos of all things horror, dark fantasy, and dark superhero. Thanks for watching. Let's get creepy together.